Good evening, everyone. I want you to imagine for a second that you're lying in bed at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling. Your neighbor's dog barks once, then silence. That silence feels so loud it's deafening. Your mind starts that familiar spiral. Why am I the only person awake right now? Why does everyone else seem to have figured out this whole life thing? You grab your phone, scroll mindlessly, but every happy picture makes you feel more invisible than before. Now, here's what's about to shock you. What I'm going to share tonight will completely flip everything you think you know about being alone. And by the end of this talk, you'll understand why some of the most fulfilled people on earth actually crave solitude. I've spent over 3 decades studying human consciousness, and tonight I want to share a discovery that will change how you see yourself forever. But first, let me ask you something that might make you squirm. When did you last sit in complete silence for 10 minutes? No distractions, no escape routes, just you and your thoughts. If that idea terrifies you, you're about to discover why, and more importantly, how to transform that terror into your greatest source of strength. But here's what's going to surprise you about what I'm about to share. We've become strangers to ourselves, and it's killing our ability to connect with others. As Mother Teresa once said, the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. Yet most of us have no idea what that even means. Let me tell you about Sandra, a marketing executive who came to see me. Picture this: corner office, 6-figure salary, Instagrammable apartment, calendar packed with social events. Yet she told me something that stopped me cold. I feel more alone in a crowded restaurant than I did as a kid hiding in my bedroom closet. Does this sound familiar? You're surrounded by people, but you feel like you're watching life through bulletproof glass. You can see everything, but nothing can touch you. Sandra had fallen into what I call the external validation trap. She had organized her entire sense of self around other people's presence and approval. When alone, she didn't know who she was anymore. The silence forced her to confront an uncomfortable truth. She had never learned to have a relationship with herself. Now, you might be thinking, this is just about introverts versus extroverts. But wait until you hear what I discovered next. This has nothing to do with personality type, and everything to do with a wound most of us carry from childhood. Here's something that will blow your mind. The problem isn't that you're alone too much. It's that you're never truly alone. Your mind is constantly consuming other people's thoughts through TV, internet, conversations. No wonder solitude feels uncomfortable. You're not sitting with yourself. You're sitting with the accumulated noise of thousands of other voices. Think about your morning routine. How many seconds pass before you check your phone, before you turn on music, news, or call someone? Most people can't make it 60 seconds without external input. We've become addicted to other people's thoughts because we're terrified of our own. But here's where this gets really fascinating, and it might change everything you think you know about relationships. The people who are most comfortable being alone are often the most magnetic in social situations. Why? Because they don't need anything from you. They're not desperate for validation, so they can actually see you. As the poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "The only journey is the one within." But most of us are running from that journey as fast as we can. Let me paint another picture. You walk into a party and immediately scan for someone you know. Your heart rate spikes when you don't see a familiar face. You grab a drink, check your phone, anything to look busy. Sound familiar? This is what I call social hiding. Being around people to avoid being with yourself. What I'm about to tell you next will completely flip your understanding of what it means to be alone. Learning to be comfortable in solitude isn't about becoming antisocial. It's about developing such a rich inner life that you choose relationships from abundance rather than desperation. But here's the beautiful truth that changes everything, and I promise this will be the most important thing you hear tonight. You can transform your relationship with solitude from terror to treasure. You can learn what the ancient philosophers called the art of being alone. This transformation begins with a revolutionary understanding that most people never discover. Your mind is not you. The endless stream of thoughts, worries, and mental commentary is like a radio that's been left on in the background. You are the one who can observe those thoughts without being controlled by them. Einstein once said, "A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe." When you discover this observer within yourself, the part that watches your thoughts but isn't the thoughts themselves, you're never truly alone because you're connected to something infinitely larger than your personality. Now let me share a story that will show you exactly how this works in real life, and this might be the key that unlocks everything for you. Meet Alice, a freelance writer who used to panic during the gaps between projects. Picture this scenario. She finishes an assignment at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. Suddenly, she has 4 unstructured hours before dinner. The silence feels like a vacuum trying to swallow her whole. She'd frantically call friends, scroll online, or create busy work, anything to avoid the emptiness. Does this resonate with you, that desperate scramble to fill empty time because silence feels like suffocation? Then something unexpected happened. A power outage lasted 6 hours. No phone, no internet, no distractions. At first, Alice felt the familiar panic, but as hours passed, something shifted. She began noticing things she'd forgotten existed. The sound of rain, the way light moved across her walls, her own breathing. When the power returned, Alice made a startling decision. She recreated that experience intentionally, setting aside 1 hour each weekend to sit without distractions. What happened next will blow your mind. This is the paradox that most people miss, and it's about to change how you think about everything. When you stop running from yourself, you discover that yourself is actually fascinating company. When you stop filling every moment with noise, you find that silence contains infinite possibilities. As Blaise Pascal observed, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Alice discovered why. In that space of intentional solitude, her creativity exploded. Ideas flowed naturally. Problems solved themselves. She felt peace that no amount of social activity had ever provided. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this next insight might be the key to everything. Alice's transformation didn't happen because she meditated or followed some complex spiritual practice. It happened because she simply stopped running from her own presence. Here's what shocked her most. Her internal critic was louder than she'd realized. Years of absorbed criticism, worry, and mental chatter had created a hostile internal environment. No wonder she couldn't stand being alone. Her own mind was attacking her constantly. But here's the part that will change your life. That critical voice isn't your voice. It's a collection of other people's judgments you've internalized. When you learn to recognize this voice as separate from your true self, it loses its power over you. Your authentic inner voice is quieter, kinder, more spacious than the critic. It doesn't judge or attack, it simply observes and understands. When you learn to listen to this genuine voice, being alone becomes like spending time with your wisest, most compassionate friend. Here's something fascinating that researchers have discovered, and this will blow your mind. People who regularly spend time in solitude show increased brain activity in areas associated with creativity, empathy, and emotional regulation. Solitude literally rewires your brain to be more innovative, understanding, and emotionally stable. But perhaps the most profound discovery is this, and you're going to want to remember this. When you develop a rich relationship with yourself, every other relationship in your life improves. You stop clinging to people out of desperation. You start choosing connections that enhance your life rather than fill a void. As Maya Angelou said, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. The thing most people don't realize they can change, their relationship with themselves. Let me tell you about Jacob's transformation, and this story will show you exactly how powerful this principle really is. Jacob, a retired engineer, thought his loneliness would be solved by moving to a senior community. Picture endless social activities, game nights, group meals. Yet even surrounded by people sharing his interests, he felt hollow inside. Here's what he discovered that changed everything. He had spent 40 years defining himself through his work and roles as husband and father. When those structures changed, he felt lost. He didn't know what he enjoyed beyond his responsibilities to others. Does this hit close to home? Have you ever wondered who you are when you're not being useful to someone else? Jacob began taking solitary walks, something he'd never done for pleasure. At first, these felt pointless, even selfish. But gradually he began noticing his surroundings with fresh eyes. He started identifying birds, observing seasons change, letting his mind wander without agenda. What happened surprised everyone, including Jacob. He didn't just become comfortable being alone, he began treasuring his solitary time. He rediscovered interests he'd forgotten, started reading philosophy again, began painting for the first time since college. When his family visited now, they noticed a remarkable change. He was more present, more engaged, genuinely interested in their lives. He wasn't desperately trying to fill his own emptiness with their attention. He was sharing his fullness with them. This is the secret that transforms everything. When you're not running from yourself, you have so much more to offer others. When you're not desperate for connection, you can love more freely. When you're not afraid of your own company, you bring presence instead of neediness to every relationship. But here's what I want you to understand about this journey, and this might be the most important part. It's not always comfortable. When you start spending intentional time alone, you might encounter parts of yourself you've been avoiding. You might feel grief about opportunities missed or relationships lost. This discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're finally paying attention to things that need your awareness. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Many people avoid solitude because they're unconsciously afraid of what they might discover. But here's what I've learned. Whatever you discover, it's better to face it consciously than live with it unconsciously. The things we resist about ourselves don't disappear when we stay busy. They operate from the shadows. Let me give you something practical you can start tonight. And this simple technique has changed thousands of lives. Before automatically reaching for your phone, turning on TV, or calling someone, when you feel that familiar discomfort of being alone, pause for 60 seconds. Take 3 deep breaths and ask, what am I really trying to avoid right now? Sometimes it's boredom, sometimes anxiety about a decision, sometimes sadness about something lost, sometimes excitement about a possibility you haven't acknowledged. Whatever it is, notice it without trying to fix or escape it. This simple practice transforms your relationship with solitude from avoidance to curiosity. Instead of seeing alone time as something to endure, you start seeing it as an opportunity to check in with yourself. Here's another technique. Set aside 10 minutes daily to sit somewhere comfortable without distractions. Don't try to meditate or achieve any particular state. Just practice being present with whatever arises in your awareness. If you feel restless, notice the restlessness. If your mind races, observe the racing without getting caught up in it. If you feel sad or anxious, allow those feelings without trying to change them. You're simply practicing being with yourself as you are, not as you think you should be. As Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. But I would add, the unaccompanied life is not worth living either. You must learn to be good company for yourself. Here's what most people don't realize. The quality of your relationship with yourself sets the template for every other relationship in your life. If you can't tolerate your own presence, you'll constantly seek external validation. If you don't find yourself interesting, you'll desperately try to be interesting to others. But when you develop genuine self-companionship, something magical happens. You stop needing others to complete you and start wanting them to complement you. You stop seeking relationships to fill emptiness and start creating them to share fullness. Over time, you'll notice something remarkable. What once felt like empty time begins to feel like spacious time. What once felt like loneliness begins to feel like solitude. What once felt like a void to fill begins to feel like a sanctuary to enter whenever you need peace. Picture this. It's Saturday night again, but this time when the silence arrives, you smile. You make a cup of tea, sit in your favorite chair, and feel grateful for this time with yourself. You might read, think, create, or simply be. You're not escaping from your life, you're entering it more fully. As we near the end of our time together tonight, I want to leave you with this understanding that will change everything. Loneliness is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It's showing you where your relationship with yourself needs attention. It's inviting you to develop the most important friendship of your life. Henry David Thoreau wrote, "I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude." This isn't poetic language, it's practical wisdom. When you make friends with solitude, you make friends with life itself. In a world that profits from your disconnection from yourself, choosing to cultivate a rich inner life is a revolutionary act. In a culture that equates worth with productivity and noise with vitality, learning to find fulfillment in silence is profound wisdom. You carry within you everything needed to never feel lonely again. You have consciousness capable of endless wonder, creativity, and peace. You have an inner observer that can find fascination in the simplest moments. You have wisdom that knows exactly what you need for growth and happiness? The question isn't whether you have the capacity to enjoy your own company. You do. The question is whether you're willing to slow down long enough, turn off distractions long enough, and sit with yourself long enough to remember who you really are, beneath all the roles you play and masks you wear. As Rumi wrote, let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. Sometimes what you really love is the peace of your own presence, the creativity of your own mind, the wisdom of your own heart. When you learn to be alone without being lonely, you discover that you're never truly alone, because you're always connected to the vast, mysterious, beautiful consciousness that is your deepest nature. Your relationship with yourself sets the template for every other relationship in your life. Make it a beautiful one and watch as everything else transforms. The journey home to yourself is the greatest adventure you'll ever take, and it begins the moment you're willing to sit quietly and meet who you really are beneath all the noise. Thank you for your attention tonight, and remember, in a world full of people running from themselves, be the one who has the courage to stay. Your authentic presence is the greatest gift you can offer this world, but first, you must give it to yourself.